My name is Enoch Chisengo. I come from Namatala village in Malava sub-county, Kakamega County. I am married. I have a wife and children. And above all, I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I practice in a law firm by the name Chisengo and Company Advocates, situated in Nairobi, Westlands, Krishna Center, the 6th floor, room 618. Yeah, I think basically that is a summary of myself. That's a summary of me.
Thank you for that introduction. Briefly give us your educational historical background.
Okay, I started my primary school education in Namatala Primary, where I studied for 8 years. That is 1991 to 1998. And then I went back because of school fees issues. I went and repeated class 8 in a school called Bulupi Primary School in South Cabras. And later on I transited to high school, Malava Boys High School. I studied there for 2 years, Form 1 and Form 2. Then I moved to Tande Secondary School, where I did my Form 4. Thereafter, I did some teaching back at Namatala Primary School for a short stint of about 8 months. 8 months or so. Then I moved to Nairobi with the hope of advancing my education. After some time, I joined Star College of Management Studies, where I did computer studies, and I did CPA Part 1. Then joined the university now, where I started my law journey. So 4 years at the Mount Kenya University, then transited to the Kenya School of Law for postgraduate diploma in law, known as ATP. Then successfully navigated through Kenya School of Law, did my pupillage. Pupillage basically is some sort of industrial attachment where you are attached to an advocate of more than 5 years in practice for training. It's a requirement as part of the requirement for becoming an advocate. So thereafter I petitioned the Chief Justice, and I was admitted to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
So we just want to understand your childhood life, maybe from the time you were born. I know there's a journey that you walked, maybe before. Just tell us between the time you were born up to the time maybe to study law.
When I was born in 1984, June. And 2 years later, I lost my father. And that thing really changed our life. And we basically, myself and my 12 siblings, we were raised by our single mother, a widow. She really struggled to raise us up. I joined primary school. Some of my brothers didn't make it to join to high school because of lack of school fees. It was just after Mzee passed on, and my mom was struggling to make a living and also raise us through education. I was lucky among my siblings, those who transited from primary school to high school. When I did my class 8 in 1998, I passed my exams, but I was unable to join secondary school because we didn't have school fees. So an idea came that I go and repeat a KCPE at Bulupi Primary School, and with the hope that I would join Starehe Boys Center. So I went, worked hard, I passed exams very well. The story about Starehe Boys Center is another story. We missed the chance because of some mistakes here and there. So I scored highly in class 8. But by then it was out of 700 I scored. I remember, I think 530 out of 700. I was called to some good schools. I received 2 letters from Kamsinga, one from Kamsinga Boys High School, Friends School Kamsinga, and another one from Msingu Boys High School. And it really gave me hope. But again, because of school fees issues, I missed those 2 chances. I ended up joining Malava Boys High School, which is another good school. I picked up in Malava Boys. It was the standard was very great. We were the reading culture and the study, everything, teachers, the equipment, the library, the school was great. But due to school fees, I dropped out in Form 2. Stayed home for the whole of that term in my Form 2. In fact, I had given up. Then after having a conversation with my elder brother, we agreed that I go back to school. So in January, I joined Tande Secondary School in Form 3. That's where I studied for the 2 years, and well, by the grace of God, I managed to pass my KCSE. When I finished Form 4, and it was now clear that my mom could not raise money, or none of my siblings raised money to send me to college, so I was on my own basically. I came to Nairobi, started looking for work. I've done many jobs. I've done basically almost everything. I worked as a teacher, both primary, secondary school. I have worked I've worked on the construction sites. I've done Mijengo. I remember we built ramps at Lions Eye Hospital. We dug very long tunnels, and I've worked as a guard, a watchman. I worked at Digital Advisor and Learning Center. It was a college being run by Dr. Obora in Parklands here, just some blocks from here. I worked for about 6 months. Then I also worked as a watchman in a college in town. It was called Orbit School of Management Studies. After some time, when I started, I worked as a court clerk, the firm of AGOP and Company Advocates, and then later on the firm of Msimi and Company Advocates. And I went to, in between my work, I took short courses. I studied computer at Star College of Management Studies. I also studied CPA, although I did not finish to CPA-K, but I did a bit of it, part 1, section 1 to 3. I have gone through a lot, and okay, it's now they are bygones, but it's good to talk about them. I used to work for very long hours. Like when I was working as a watchman, I used to work for that 6 hours. That is, I would work for night, day, and night. Then go home and rest for 4 hours, come back again to duty. There was no off duty, there was no leave. You are just working. The pay was not commensurate to the work, the input that I feel the input was higher than what I was receiving as the pay. And there was the work environment was not conducive at all. I also, when I was working as a teacher, I remember going without pay for many months. You are going to work and you don't have rent, you don't have food, you are expected to dress well, you don't have money to buy clothes and all that stuff. There was a time I even lacked a place to stay. There's a friend of mine who kept me up for some time. I can't even remember his name. He was just a neighbor somewhere in Pipeline, and I lived with him like 4 months. Then he asked me to leave. So I even sometime I slept in a bathroom, in a toilet. These are apartments in Eastlands where they are not self-contained, so there is one toilet and one bathroom on each floor. So I went, bought a paperback. We used to have paperbacks then, the green ones, as a calendar, and nikatandika kwa nini. Then I sat at the corner, and I didn't have a sweater. Slept for like 2 hours, woke up before people began taking shower. Na nikaenda kuota moto na jamaa wa kutengeneza mandazi. So those are some of the life was not easy. Life, was not easy at all, and I would look back at the poverty at home and look at the desperation of my people, and I think I really was motivated to remain focused, and that is but what I'm forgetting to mention is that I got born again early in my life, and so God really is part of this story throughout. I would always turn back to church to pray, to cry to God, and just ask Him to make things work for me. I got a job at Chase Bank in 2013, and I think it is God who connected me, because when I joined the bank, they had facilities, loan facilities for educational loan, which was 0% interest. So I took the advantage and took the loan. I looked for a college. Some colleges were very expensive, so I went to Mount Kenya University, and there I was admitted to study the law. And now I ran through 4 years. I got my degree, went to transited to Kenya School of Law for my postgraduate studies. I got my diploma in a postgraduate diploma in law, which is a part of fulfillment of becoming an advocate. And thereafter I did the pupillage at SBM Bank and Kikuyu Law Court. I petitioned the Chief Justice and was admitted to the bar as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Then shortly thereafter I left the bank and set up a law firm. It was a leap of faith, and I remember even my family was very uncomfortable with that decision. But I believed, I had that strong belief in me that the time had come for me now to do what I had wanted to do from class 8.
What prompted you to prefer? There are so many things that maybe you could have been advised to do, like accounts. You are doing accounts, you are teaching.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you just pursue teaching or accounts? What prompted you now to change and focus on law?
When I was in primary school, my uncle was a very successful advocate, practicing in Kisumu, Kakamega, Bungoma, Eldoret, Nairobi, all over. I was very close to him. I used to visit his home, and I admired him. He was a brilliant man, very brilliant. Once in a while I accompanied him in court and admired the way he argued the cases. And I said, this is what I want to be. And I was very clear about it in my mind, my heart, my conviction that this is what I want to be. Yeah, so when I did my class 8, when I was joining for Form 1, in fact I was talking to my brother, and I was asking him the course, the subject I should focus in, so that will lead me to studying the law. And he told me, it is too early for you to start thinking about that. Go first, do your Form 4, and then you. But I was very clear that I wanted to study the law because of the influence that was on me by my uncle. He's still my friend up to now. He's still a great advocate, currently practicing in Mombasa. Yeah, he motivated me a lot. There are people who came in my life, they wanted me to study nursing. As early as 2004, someone brought some forms from KMTC. but my heart was not in medicine. I wanted to study education. In fact, I joined Kikuyu campus for like 2 weeks, dropped out. I just didn't. I could not find myself studying it to end. I also joined accounts because CPA was very marketable, and I had hopes that I would get a job and then go back and study the law. And actually, that is what happened. That is exactly what happened. So there are so many other courses, so many voices, but the voice in me pushed me to study the law. That was the motivation that I had. The other motivation, the other thing that motivated me was the turn of events after my father died. There was a lot of discrimination. There was a lot of abuse from my extended family. My mother was really discriminated. She was abused. She was, her properties were taken away. She was accused falsely of killing her husband, and she lost many things. And for me, I said I would be that person who would fight for widows, would fight for people who are desperate, who are destitutes in the society, who have no voice to speak on their behalf. It is another thing that really pushed me to correct some wrongs in our society, where women are discriminated, widows are accused of killing their husbands. They are not even given a chance to mourn their husbands, and people really don't care about how the children are feeling.
Now, maybe for the people who are listening or who are watching you, and maybe they have that ambition of studying law.
Yes.
Maybe just tell them, what does it entail for one to study or to be a lawyer? That is studying to be a lawyer. What is the amount of commitment that person has to put in?
Number one, you need first of all to qualify to study the law. So it starts all the way from high school. That's why it is very important that pupils and students in high school and primary are guided on career path, so that you know which career path I want to take. For you to qualify to study the law, you have to pass languages, English and or Kiswahili. You need to at least have a C+ in English or Kiswahili, and you also need to have at least a C+ mean grade for you to qualify to study the law. Then in the art subject, you need also to have performed well in the history or CRA or IRE, social studies, all those subjects, art subjects. Now, after qualifying, now you will now join the university to study the degree for 4 years. It is a wide course. It's a course that needs a lot of dedication in terms of time to read, to research, to make presentations. So it's not for faint-hearted. You just need to give it all. After 4 years, you'll get your degree. When your colleagues, your school college mates in BCom and other disciplines are going to work, your degree may not be of much help. You have to go to join the Kenya School of Law now to study a postgraduate diploma. It's called ATP, Advocates Training Program. It runs for 18 months, 1.5 years. So it's 1 year classwork, condensed, very heavy course. It's like a 4-year course put in 1 year. So there is where people give up, because you read a lot, you do a lot of application work, you do projects that are very heavy and time consuming, and many people just get confused and overwhelmed. Many, in fact, give up. They go to do other things. Yeah, so after you have done your 1 year course, you'll go for 6 months, what we call. Now, after you have done your 1 year course, that's classwork, you will sit for an examination. The examination body is the Council for legal CLE, Council for Legal Education. So you will do your exams, whether you pass it or not, or whether you defer the entire exam, you qualify to do your pupillage, as long as you have completed the coursework, the classwork for the 9 or so 10 months, because it runs before COVID it used to run from February to October to November. Then you do exam for 2 weeks, and the school takes students from all the universities in Kenya and abroad. Anyone who wants to become an advocate must go through the Kenya School of Law. Yeah, so from there you go to pupillage. Pupillage simply is an attachment, practical aspect of now the advocate's training. You are attached to an advocate of 5 years practice and above as your supervisor. There are institutions that are accredited, all law firms with advocates who are 5 years and above. An advocate who is 5 years and above can take up a pupil. An advocate can take up to 2 pupils. Yeah, so, and we have institutions that are accredited, maybe banks, some banks with the legal departments. All banks have legal departments, so banks can take pupils. The judiciary, all courts take pupils. Some corporates take pupils. So pupillage is the practical aspect. You do it for 6 months. There is a book where you fill in everyday experience. Today I did this and that. You sign and your supervisor signs. Your pupil master signs. Then the school, Kenya School of Law, will dispatch supervisors, your lecturers, to come and now assess you. And before now they can, you can now clear with the school and now proceed to Council for Legal Education, where now you will be allowed to petition now the CJ, the Chief Justice, to get admitted to the bar.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a journey of if all factors are held constant, about 7 years. But you know, the 7 years the bare minimum. People spend some quite a long time there. Yeah.
I normally hear of the 2 terms, a lawyer and an advocate. What is the difference?
A lawyer is a person who has studied the law, but it's a general term for anyone who has a degree or a diploma in law, but does not include an advocate. An advocate is a person who has studied the law, both and has gone to the Kenya School of Law for postgraduate diploma, and has been admitted to the bar and has a practicing certificate for that year of practice. That's an advocate. So the difference is a lawyer can do general work, mostly we can say clerical, but they cannot address the court, they cannot draw documents in their name, they cannot stamp documents, they are not commissioners for oath. Yeah, so they can do majorly research, drafting, then the final document is drawn in the name of the advocate. Yeah, so an advocate is regulated in conduct and everything, ethics. There is a law, there is an Advocates Act that regulates the conduct of an advocate and how to become an advocate.
So in short, a lawyer who has not maybe go to the Kenya School of Law cannot represent a client in court?
Yes, they cannot. They cannot even witness a sale agreement for land. They cannot draft, they cannot file documents in court. Yeah.
And we've had some cases of people masquerading as advocates. Now, you have experience of studying law. Yeah, you are practicing. How can one manage to masquerade as a lawyer or an advocate without being noticed?
We have masqueraders. There are very many. in this country, because one, the journey of becoming an advocate is it's not for faint-hearted. It is long and hard. So it needs patience, endurance, focus, and dedication. All those things put together. Many law students tend to give up along the way because the exams are hard. You fail. If you fail 1, 2, 3, 4 times, you see your colleagues have become advocates. So people give up. And they have this experience. They say it's just talking to the court. It's just drafting documents. Why can't I just start hiding behind and saying that I am an advocate? Yeah, so that is how to me that is one major contribution to this thing of masqueraders, or people who practice, and they are unqualified people who practice the law. Yeah, it's a big challenge to the Law Society of Kenya, because advocates, one, they are regulated, they are accountable for everything they do, from dress code to what they talk, to what they write, to how they address the court. So the professionalism of an advocate is different from a lawyer who has not gone through the journey of becoming an advocate. And I think it erodes now the practice and all that stuff. So I think that the major contribution is the challenge of the study, the hurdles, along the way, the blocks you have to jump for you to become an advocate.
So in short, most of them have maybe they have done, but they did not complete the course.
Yeah, they don't qualify. Yeah, so they have maybe studied the law, or they have some knowledge of the law. Some of them from just apprenticeship, working for an advocate for some time. You get some documents that have been drafted, so you just copy paste and file them. There are some transactions that are straightforward that can be done by even non-lawyers, but the technical aspect of it now is what now becomes hard for them. So some of them have clerks, for advocate clerks. Some of them are lawyers who have not completed the school and admitted to the bar. Some of them, for some reason, they have been maybe disbarred because of disciplinary issues. They are no longer allowed to practice. Yeah.
And how come some of them maybe they are normally discovered after a very long time of practicing? Don't we have something like, maybe when you look at the teachers, they have the number to identify them, to show that they are trained and they are qualified? If maybe someone is representing a client, what informs the
Law Society
of Kenya that this one is part of the team? Don't they do a background check of maybe the people who are representing the clients in court?
Well, now, every advocate has a number. It's called a P105 number. It's a unique number to that particular advocate. What I understand, most clients, number one, people don't like advocates. They say advocates eat people's money. They charge us for things we can do for ourselves. So they go for cheap, number one. So anyone who comes cheaply, clients will not even do a background check. It is in the public domain. If you went to the Law Society of Kenya website, there is a search engine, advocate search engine. Click on it, put the name Enoch Chisengo. It will pop out and bring, this is an advocate who is active. Because you can be an advocate who is inactive for that year, you are not allowed to practice. So, and the consequences are that all the proceedings done by a person who is not qualified to practice for that particular year are meaningless. Once you are discovered, they are quashed. Any transaction you have done, the fees you have paid, it goes down the drain. Yeah, so I would blame the public, members of the public. They don't, it's good you do a background check, if you are not very sure, write to the Law Society of Kenya and tell them, this person here passes as an advocate. Please confirm to me that he is an advocate, a member of the Law Society of Kenya. Yeah. So, the LSK cannot be in every court, in every office, behind closed doors, looking at confirming that this one is an advocate, this one is not an advocate. It is the members of the public that encourage quacks to practice the law. License. Yeah, advocates renew their license, their practice certificates every year, and before you renew, there are things, qualifications. One, you must have attained at least 5 continuous professional development training points, 30 CPD points, and you must not be serving any disciplinary. You should not be having any disciplinary issue with the disciplinary department, advocates disciplinary department, and at the same time you pay for the certificate. So you pay, there's a requisite amount, like between 16,000 and 21,000, depending with whether you're a young advocate or you have crossed the line of being a young advocate. And all this is to ensure that the standards are upheld and the professionalism is upheld, so that you are at par with every emerging issue in law. That's why masqueraders now really reduce the quality of law practice, because they don't attend the trainings, they are not accountable to anyone, they are unprofessional, basically.
We have the advocates and we have the judges. Does it mean there is a different school that trains judges and advocates, or you train the same place, and how does one cross maybe from being just an advocate to a judge or a magistrate?
Judges and magistrates are advocates, or they are basically lawyers, but they are advocates. At some point they have practiced, most of them have practiced the law, either contributed through academics, maybe they were lecturers, but as advocates, or practiced as advocates as such. We have what you call the bar and the bench. The bar is about the advocates in private practice, and the bench is now the judiciary, those who sit to preside over cases. They are now the judges. The law on appointment of judges, the Constitution has provided, and the Magistrates Act has provided. A magistrate is a lawyer of at least 3 years practice and above. You qualify to be a magistrate, you apply. It's a competitive process. One applies, goes through the interview, then you are recruited. Once they are recruited, they go to the Judiciary Training Institute, where they are trained on now how to preside over cases, how to write judgments, how to write how to make to preside, basically how to manage the court process. For a judge must be an advocate of at least a judge of the High Court, advocate of at least 10 years practice, and a judge of the Supreme Court, 15 years of practice and above.
Now, we have seen some cases whereby someone maybe has committed murder, and there are still advocates who stand to represent that person, and maybe the person has said he's guilty of something or the case or something like that. So my question is, if someone is already admitting that he has done that particular crime, is there a need of representation in court?
Yeah, number one, every person, there's the doctrine of presumption of innocence. Every person is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court. of law. Number two, a right to representation is a right in the Bill of Rights for accused persons. Every person who is accused of any offense, of having committed any offense, any suspect, has a right to a lawyer, has a right to be represented in court. And this one just helps to advance this doctrine of presumption of innocence, and also to advance the fair administrative action, and also to advance the rule of law. Because if you condemn people before they are heard, then you are saying that they don't deserve to live, or they don't deserve to fairness or justice. Yeah, so we don't have any class of people who are denied representation. In fact, capital offenders must, it's mandatory that they are given representation by the government. Defense lawyers are paid by the government. Murder, people who have committed, suspected of accused of having committed murder, robbery with violence, their representation is paid out by the government.
Now you said everybody has a right to be represented. What about maybe the person doesn't have enough money to hire an advocate?
Yeah, having a right does not necessarily mean that now you will get representation. But that aside, every advocate is encouraged to take up cases for free. It's called pro bono, where you represent people for free. It accounts to the end of the year. You have to state matters you represented for free on pro bono basis at the time of renewing your license, your practicing certificate. Yeah, so we have those that do not cannot afford, because it is costly to hire an advocate. So they can be represented. We have you can register with the Kituo cha Sheria or some other movements or NGOs where advocates go to court for free, especially victims of gender-based violence, victims of sexual offenses, or rape, defilement, or social justice issues. Maybe a widow whose land is being taken away, or people who are just discriminated and disadvantaged by the law because of lack of money to pay advocates. We have guidelines on pauper, representation of paupers, and how one is arrived at as a pauper, so that you don't pay, or you pay minimum fees, but the rest is paid by the government.
So now tell us about your lowest moment.
Okay, my lowest moment in life was when I lost my mother in 2009. It happened so suddenly, and I was in that state where I was vulnerable. I didn't have a stable job. I felt left alone in this world, and it took me long for me to move on. Every time I felt like giving up, felt like just even taking my life. But by the grace of God, things started working out, and right now I can talk about that story without shedding a tear. That means that I moved on. It was the lowest moment in my life.
What challenges do you normally face while discharging your duties as an advocate?
Number one is the clients. The clients have a lot of confidence. They always expect that you must win the case, because they have paid you the money. And for us, we are not the ones that decide cases. We do our best, we put in our best in terms of preparation and presentation and doing submissions, and we leave to the courts to decide. Another challenge is where clients would want to influence how you will manage the case. They will want to tell you what to do, and you are the professional. So in most cases, when you tell them the right thing, they will think like you are not listening to them. So that's another challenge. The other challenge is the expectations from the society. Many people expect that as a lawyer you must be having a lot of money and you are a rich person, so you should always, fund many things. Harambes, name them, churches, relatives. Yeah, so those are some of the challenges, the pressures of life, especially for young advocates who have not made a fortune. It becomes a great challenge to them. The other challenge is corruption in the judiciary, corruption in the lands, in the government offices, where you do your case well, and for some reason you find that it has gone the other way, when actually everyone, all lawyers, all people who listened to your presentation saw that this case was tilted towards your side. But for some reason, you find that the case is decided in favor of another person. So corruption is a major challenge for legal practitioners. It's corruption that has even brought about masqueraders, people who for some reason they find they find their way into practice, and even some judges or magistrates are aware that this one is not an advocate. Even some officers of the Law Society of Kenya are aware, but because they have been bribed, find that things are not. The environment becomes very unconducive.
Now, what advice would you give to the people, maybe those ones who are aspiring to be lawyers and even advocates in future?
Number one, it is not, the fruits are sweet, but the journey to becoming an advocate is not an easy one. So let no one be cheated that they will just become, it's an automatic thing. They must first of all be prepared to sweat blood and sweat, in terms of studying, in terms of endurance, perseverance, patience. It's a long course that takes about 7 years in the minimum, but it can take even 20 years for you to become an advocate. So you should never give up. Number one, when you go to high school, work hard, get good grades, focus in your languages and humanities, but all these other courses should give you a leverage so that you score good grades and qualify. As I said in the beginning of the interview, you need at least a C+ mean grade and a C+ in English or Kiswahili. Yeah, so it is not that it's a good career, but needs a lot of effort in terms of the work that you put in before you qualify to practice the law.